The Ibadan sun blazed down on the busy marketplace. Traders shouted prices, customers bargained, and the scent of ripe tomatoes, fresh meat, and ground spices filled the dusty air. Amid the chaos stood Kemi, a slender woman with high cheekbones and a bright smile. Her tomato stall, neatly arranged and vibrant, was always among the most visited in the market. But it wasn't just her tomatoes that drew people. It was her charm, her laughter, and her growing relationship with Tunde, the meat seller. Tunde was known for his swagger, with a butcher's knife in one hand and a smooth compliment on his lips. He made every woman feel seen. But among all the glances and flirty greetings, it was Kemi he lingered with the most. Every day, he would bring her the choicest cut of meat. "For my tomato queen," he'd say, winking as she blushed and accepted it. Their chemistry was no secret. The market women gossiped, and some shook their heads. "Be careful with that one," Mama Sada had warned Kemi once. "Meat sellers talk sweet, but their love can spoil like raw beef." But Kemi didn't listen. She liked how Tunde made her feel. Desired, womanly, alive. She had grown up without much love or attention. Now, at 28, with no husband or serious suitor, Tunde felt like a blessing. Soon, the conversations turned private. He would sneak into her stall during the quieter hours, whispering jokes in her ear, and sometimes resting his hand too long on her waist. It didn't take long before one of those slow afternoons turned into something more. It was raining heavily. The stalls were covered in tarpaulin, and the customers had vanished. Kemi sat on a mat, sorting through damaged tomatoes, when Tunde slipped in, dripping wet. "No customers today," he said, shaking off his umbrella. "No tomatoes either," she joked, not looking up. But he didn't laugh. He just stared at her, her soaked wrapper, the beads of sweat and rain on her chest, the slow way she moved her hands. Then, without asking, he stepped forward and kissed her. Kemi froze, then melted. It was rough, needy, and quick. By the time they finished, her wrapper was bunched at her hips and his trousers undone. They didn't speak after, only smiled, breathless and guilty. But after that day, things escalated fast. They would meet behind the stalls, in empty shops, sometimes even inside his car after market hours. Their bodies knew each other well. Their rhythms synced in secret pleasure. But Tunde had another rhythm elsewhere. Sarah sold spices 3 rows away. She was bold, curvy, and loud. The kind of woman who didn't beg for attention but demanded it. She had known Tunde long before Kemi arrived at the market, and unknown to Kemi, she had been sleeping with him for months. On and off, mostly in secrecy. Tunde enjoyed both women for different reasons. Kemi made him feel calm. Sarah made him feel wild, and he had never been good at choosing. That is, until the festival of Olojo came. It was a grand event. Drums played, dancers twirled, and the market transformed into a carnival of food, music, and color. Kemi wore a flowing blue and red wrapper, her head tied high. She was radiant and happy, until she saw it. Tunde and Sarah, behind the pepper stall, kissing. It wasn't a peck. It was full, deep, and shameless. Sarah was laughing, grinding against him while he cupped her bottom like he owned it. Kemi dropped her tray of tomatoes. The fruit scattered across the dusty floor. Gasps followed. A crowd gathered. But Kemi didn't care. She stormed toward them, her slippers slapping the ground. "You bastard!" she screamed, pushing Sarah aside and grabbing Tunde's shirt. "After everything we've done, you're still sleeping with her?" Sarah recovered quickly, stepping back in with fire. "Look who's talking. You think he's yours? He's been with me since before you knew what ripe tomatoes looked like." "Shut your mouth." Kemi slapped her. Sarah slapped back. Then all hell broke loose. They wrestled like lionesses, rappers flying, market women screaming. Traders tried to break them apart, but the fight was too fierce. Tunde stood back, unsure whether to intervene or run. A wooden table broke, and someone called the police. By the time the officers arrived, Kemi had a torn blouse, Sarah had a bleeding lip, and Tunde had disappeared. Both women were dragged to the station. It was there, sitting side by side in silence on a hard bench, that Kemi finally spoke. "Did you love him?" Sarah scoffed, then paused. "I don't know. Maybe. He made me feel wanted." "You?" Kemi nodded. "Yes, but now I feel stupid." Sarah sighed. "Men like him, they take and take. We give, hoping it means something. But to them we're just..." She trailed off. Kemi looked at her. For the first time, she saw not a rival, but a woman like herself. Tired, bruised, betrayed. When their families arrived to bail them out, Kemi turned to Sarah. "No more fights. He's not worth it." Sarah nodded. "Next time, I'll pick a man who's not shared meat." They both laughed, bitterly but genuinely. Back at the market, things weren't the same. Tunde had disappeared for a while, ashamed or afraid. When he returned, both women ignored him. Kemi focused on her stall, wearing new lipstick and brighter clothes. Sarah started dating a quiet electrician who visited her every weekend. They weren't friends, but they shared knowing glances across the rows. Sometimes, love doesn't end with wedding bells or sweet endings. Sometimes, it ends with a fight in the market and lessons learned the hard way. But for Kemi and Sarah, the heartache made them stronger. They found dignity in walking away, even if it took blood, tomatoes, and broken tables to get there.